here
Recording in
and abroad,
progress.
in both past and present, for their service. Also to acknowledge the work our first responders and healthcare workers did during this pandemic and continue to do. Please be seated. Okay, first item on the agenda is an appointment at 6:30. Dayball's, we have a change of manager. Mr. McGinnis.
Yes, we have a change of manager. Is someone from Dayball's here as a representative?
Mary Ann Buckley's here. Mary Ann, if you can just unmute yourself, please. There you go. Hi. Okay, so we have a change. Oh, let me get to that page. All right, so we already have a change of management. I guess SB Realty is that part of Dayball's also?
No, Scuttlebutt Coffee.
Okay, Scuttlebutt. Okay, thank you. Sorry. Same initials, but reversed. So.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. So basically, it's a change in the manager, effective, I guess, immediately as soon as we take care of this. Looks like everything on the permitting has been taken care of. Any forms, Mr. McGinnis, that were not filled out that we need?
Nope, they're all set.
They're all set. Okay. Using this new permitting system that the town has, looks like everything has come out okay. Thumbs up on that, guys. Okay, what's the board's pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. Herron. On the motion, any questions? Being none, Mr. Tattlebaum,
Yes.
Mr. Herron,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
and the chair votes in favor. Congratulations and good luck.
All right, thank you so much.
Alrighty. You can have an interlude for 30 seconds.
You can put on the warrant.
Did I mention something?
Let's move on to new business. This is going to be the easy one. Looking for an appointment of special officer. Recently retired Sergeant Howie Wong wants to become a special police officer in the town. What's the board's pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. Herron. On the motion, any questions? Being none, Mr. Tattlebaum,
Yes.
Mr. Herron,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson.
Yes.
Chair votes in favor. Okay. 6:35, which I now have. We have a common vic for Scuttlebutt Coffee Company. Let's see. Okay, this is a new business taking over Chumley's. And it's for people to grab their Java before work and during work and after work. I believe, let's see. Can I have your name? I'm sorry, I'm not on the right form here.
It's Jacob.
Okay.
Jacob Schwartz.
Oh, Jacob, I'm sorry. I apologize.
I-
All right, Jacob, just basically give a quick rundown and a promo.
Yeah, so we were operating as guest chefs out of Little Moss over the pandemic, and the Chumley space became available, and yeah, we took it, and we're just going to be breakfast and lunch, coffee shop, and restaurant, and that's pretty much it.
Sounds good. Gentlemen, any questions?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, second by Mr. Herron. You got to speak up. It's got to be said, not here. Mr. Tattlebaum, you have a question?
Just a quick question. Jacob, congratulations. A timetable for the operation?
Hopefully we get our permits through, everything gets installed, and we'll be open July 4th weekend.
So pretty moving condition. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. McGinnis, we have all the paperwork correct, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Mr. Herron?
During his promo, he forgot to tell us the business hours.
Oh, we'll be doing, I want to say 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. starting out, and we might expand more than that, but we'll start there.
8 a.m. to 2 p.m. starting out. Sounds good? Yep. Okay. All right. On the motion, any further questions? Okay, Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Herron?
Yes.
Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Chair votes in favor. All right, congratulations. Go and brew.
Good luck.
Good luck. Have fun. All right. The next appointment is at 6:40. We got 3 minutes. We have a resignation from Jamie Jacquart from the Youth Commission. Long-term, 10-year service to the town. As normal, we would send a letter of thank you to Mr. Jacquart, and we will have this posted on the website for an appointment. Board okay with that?
Chairman,
Mr. Tattlebaum?
I know he mentioned in his written material, but I would like to say that Jamie Jacquart put a lot of time into the effort of not only keeping the youth advocate and the commission going, but also to basically to put into a major transition, which seems to be working quite well, and he left it in good hands. And the work he did and the efforts he put in were in full support by town and town meeting, and he kept it going and he made it happen. And working with Mr. McGinnis, we basically transitioned to a much different operation. And I look forward to a very productive and ongoing and flexible youth commission where we can just keep going where the need is certainly there. So thank you,
Yep.
Mr. Jacquart.
He did an excellent job. Mr. Mickelson?
Yeah, I too want to congratulate Jamie for all the years of his dedicated, whatever he brought in the fold, he gave 100% and still will. I'm sure he'll land somewhere. He will contribute again. And I just want to thank you, Jamie.
Well, okay. All right. So we'll have that done. 6:38. Okay.
You want to vote on the warrant, Sean?
Yes, we have the weekly warrant that we need, so I'd like a motion to sign the warrant and have Mr. McInnes sign it on our behalf.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Gracie, seconded by Mr. Harron. On the motion, any questions? Mr. Tattlebaum,
Yes.
Mr. Harron,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
and the chair votes in favor.
Mr. Chair, Jamie Jacquart is
Yes,
on.
I just
Okay.
saw his picture pop up. Jamie, are you there?
Hi, everybody. Sorry.
You already missed the accolades. We're not going to do it a second time because, it gets redundant and everybody's going to get all mushy. But really, we accepted your letter on our behalf. We'll have something sent out to you, a bill. And no, seriously, we want to just, the board basically wants to thank you for your service for your 10 years. You took on a yeoman's job and you left the commission in a better place, which we greatly appreciate. And we look forward to what's going to happen with the youth commission further down. And you're a big part of that. So we want to thank you for that and appreciate all the work that you did on the town's behalf, on behalf of everybody in the town. So,
Well, thank you for the opportunity. You were the group that had granted me the opportunity to do this. And I think that in the last 10 years, we were able to do a great job of providing for some transitions of personnel, to expand some services, and to link ourselves more closely with the school system and with the region around us. I'm confident that under Kempton's leadership as the chair and with the existing group of people, that they're going to be able to do some great things. And so I'm fully confident in their abilities, and it really has been an honor to do this on behalf of our citizens. So thank you for the opportunity.
and we have a thank you from Dolores Joseph also. So
Oh, wonderful.
through the chat. Great. Well, thank you, Jamie. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Good luck tonight, folks.
Good luck.
Thanks, Jamie.
All right, 6:41. We have one-day licenses for the Holy Ghost Ground, in total of 6. Mr. Costa, come on in.
How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good.
All
So
right, just give us a quick breakdown on the items.
we're looking for 6 one-day alcohol permits. The first one on 7/24, which has to be changed to 7/25 because they have a problem with their food. So that's going to be changed to 7/25. It's a family day, just a reunion. And all the rest are weddings, July 31st, August 8th, September 18th, October 16th. They're all under 150 people, and most of them go from 1 to 10 p.m.
Okay. All right. With the board's approval, we need to amend the first one for June, that said July 24th to July 25th. So whatever motion that is, please add that. Board's pleasure.
Motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. Gracie. Thank you. I was looking down at my notes. All right, on the motion, any questions? Mr. Tattelbaum?
Yes.
Mr. Herron?
Yes.
Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes in favor. Congratulations. All right, thank you, Mr. Costa. You got your approvals.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
You too now. All right, let's see, 43. Okay, let's see. Let's do the DEP award for energy efficiency upgrades.
Yes, Cody and Kathy Stanley can speak to that.
So last week was National Drinking Water Week, and as a result, Mass DEP gave several awards to various communities throughout the state for their public water systems. Dartmouth was one of 3 communities to receive an Energy Conservation Award from Mass DEP. That award came as a result of 4 of our municipal drinking water wells were upgraded with variable frequency drives and premium energy efficiency motors. These upgrades increased overall efficiency while saving the town more than $68,000 and 375,000 kWh of electricity per year. This was funded through a DEP grant of $50,000, an Eversource incentive of $85,000, and a town contribution of a little less than $15,000. Kathy Stanley was instrumental in this project. She did a great job in overseeing the Eversource energy incentives, following up with DEP to make sure we got the proper grant back to the town. And also Steve Sullivan and the water department were great in making sure this project got done. And that's a significant savings for the town electricity wise. And overall, just I think continues to support what Dartmouth has been doing and being a leader in the state for our energy conservation projects.
Excellent. Kathy, you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I've been working with Dartmouth now for about 1.5 years, I guess. It's just been a whirlwind, right? But we had, that project honestly was started by my predecessor, I think, and the folks over at DPW. So I can't take all the credit for it, that's for sure. But it was nice to have something to sort of chase as we were getting it into the fray here. And we continue to look for opportunities. We're hoping, maybe, fingers crossed, DEP will come up with another GAP 2 grant, possibly. We have some ideas. I know Steve would love to have solar panels on his water treatment building over there, and we've looked at that. And
Sure.
so, and as a matter of fact, I'll be meeting with Tim on Wednesday. First time I got a chance to, have a chance to sit down with him and talk about how his department's doing and what I can do to help them. So we continue to look for opportunities, and every chance we get, we bring in the incentives. That's the plan. But thank you all for your help and for this recognition. It's very nice. Thank you.
And it's I don't want to say stuff, but it's projects like this that just kind of fly under the radar, and the general public is not aware of what's going on, and it's just something that needs to be recognized and shown to everybody that there are some good things coming out of local government, and this is part of it. If it's a good way to save money and whatnot, let's try and get it done, and it's even better when it happens. So for everybody that worked on it, thank you very much for your help. DPW, Cody, Kathleen, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We know we have a good team. We know we have good people working for us, and working with us. And it's a good attaboy.
Thank you.
Girl. Add
a person, whatever.
Add-a-person,
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay. Any comments on other members from the board? Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great.
All
Have a great night, guys.
You too now. Thank you. All right, 6:45 or 6:47. We have a one-day license request from the DNRT. Hi, Dexter.
Good evening.
All right, what do you got?
Well, you may remember that before the pandemic, DNRT used to have a big summer fundraiser called the Barn Bash at the Sylvan Nursery Barn. And we decided this year to do, instead of one big party, to do 4 separate parties, small, sort of casual summer cookouts, we're calling them, about 60 people each. June 25th, July 16th, August 28th, and September 18th. So one a month over the next 4 months. Tickets are $50 a person, and it's going to have feature barbecue dinner, beer, wine, a specialty cocktail, lawn games, music, and it's going to be right at our headquarters at the Helfand Farm. Summer cookouts this year.
If there's one thing better than one party, it's 4 parties. So that's for sure. So, all right. Board members have any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. Gracie. On the motion, any questions? Mr. Tattlebaum,
Yes.
Mr. Herron,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
and the chair votes in favor. All right, Dexter, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great idea, Dexter.
Thanks.
All right, let's see. Now we can kind of go hit the new business down the lines. Finish the first 2 items. Next, we have the Taxpayer Assistance Program, Mr. McInnes and Mr. Carrero.
Gary, go ahead.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for the board having me tonight to talk about this. So back in January of 2000, the town established under Mass General Law, Chapter 60, Section 3D, the Taxpayers Assistance Program, which allowed residents to help other residents and donate anonymously, if you will, through their tax bill. The town kind of over the years really wasn't too active with this account up until maybe the last quarter of the real estate tax. We had about $15,000 in this account. I then sent out a notice in the tax bill for an anonymous donations that anyone could fill out and apply for to donate to the town. This sits in a special fund. We received just in that last billing almost $4,000. So the account right now is up to about $19,000. And I did this also in the new fiscal year going out for the tax bills for both real estate and personal property, hoping to generate a little bit more money so that we can keep this fund going. What I'm here before you tonight to do is to request the appointment of 3 members, three members, one being an at-large member, which would be the Board of Assessors Chair, and then myself, and then Dr. Eileen Marlin, Betsy Stefanik, and James Tooley. And once we get this established, we'll be working with the Council on Aging and also the veterans. Those are the key areas and the folks that we want to target in town that may also qualify for the elderly exemption, but may not get enough from the elderly exemption. So we kind of want to target those folks and maybe others in town and develop criteria under the law that we would be allowed to distribute this money to the residents. And I think that this is a great time coming out of a pandemic. People are still financially strapped, and this would just help a little bit more to pay. It's going to be a direct payment towards their tax bill. That's how we would apply it.
Sounds good. Sounds good to me. Any board member have any questions? All right, I need a motion to, yes, Mr. Tattlebaum.
All right, one quick question. Congratulations, Gary. What a fabulous program, and thanks for picking it up, taking the responsibility and the leadership. Obviously the newest tax bills are out, but going forward, is there more we can do, or do we enough to let people know that this program exists? And maybe you could even promote it and get even more contributions, especially where now you have an active committee and you're actually seeking with direction. Is there more we can do for the fall, I guess the next tax bill round, to let people know, or are we doing enough?
So what I plan on doing is, obviously we haven't met, the committee hasn't met yet, but doing like a marketing campaign, getting this out to DCTV, maybe the Council on Aging, having put that in the flyer or the monthly newsletter, maybe some roles on Facebook or some media, just to get it out there that this has been established, and the donations are all anonymous. They're done by the residents, by businesses in town, but my plan is to, once we meet, to get this out into the public and tell people about it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gary.
Anybody else? I need a motion to establish the committee and to move forward.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Gracie, seconded by Mr. Mickelson. On the motion, any questions? Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Herron?
Yes.
Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes in favor. Good. Okay, Gary, keep us apprised of the program.
All right, thank you very much.
Roll it out.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Nice going.
Right.
Next item on the agenda, we have the natural gas grant program. Cody.
Yes, thank you. So back in October, I had applied for a grant through the Attorney General's office. This was to fund a natural gas program, a heating assistance program that the town would oversee. It was unique. It's something that the town had never done before. So we worked, we received a $20,000 grant. And so now that the heating season is over, I wanted to provide a little bit of some statistics of the success that this program had. So of the 20,000, we were able to award $12,000. We helped 34 different households. Out of those 34, 9 of them received an additional $200 grant. We served 71 residents, 16 households with an elder, 9 households with a dependent child, 3 households with 1 or more disabled individuals, and about half of the 34 households were individuals that would not have typically qualified for heating assistance, which was a big goal of the Attorney General's office with this program. So we have about $8,000 remaining. My plan would be at the end of the summer to kind of open this up again. Any applications I receive between now and then I put aside, and I'll start to process these again, and we'll get that remaining $8,000 out there. But I do just want to thank Dolores Joseph, our youth advocate, and Amy DiPietro and her staff over at the Council on Aging. They were great to work with and make sure we get the word out there so residents were aware of this program. And for a program that didn't exist before and we started from scratch, I think this was a huge success. And so I appreciate all of Dolores's and Amy's help.
Is this an ongoing program?
So it was just this year. It came as a result of a settlement that the Attorney General's office was able to move forward with. In speaking with them, there is thoughts that it may be happening for the next couple of years, but no guarantees.
All right. How many people applied? I know you said 34 were granted. How many applications were there?
There were only 2 applicants that I was not able to approve, just for a matter of not being able to get me the resources, application information necessary, and I reached out to them. One of them withdrew, and one of them never got back to me. So yeah, pretty good success rate.
Yeah, I would say so. 34 out of 36, pretty good. Mrs. Tattlebaum?
Cody, nice going again. And Amy and Dolores, fantastic program. Is there and I'm just passing a thought here, is there a way for us to maybe fund the project similar to what we're doing with taxes, but do it through bills of some kind? So maybe people would want to even donate to it in some form. I don't know how that would take it, but
I think maybe going forward, we can look at alternate ways to fund a program like this. I think, we've had some success and we do have some remaining funding. So we'll work to get that out there. And I'm hopeful that the Attorney General's office will fund this for the next few years going forward. And when they stop, I think, Amy and Dolores have been great. And I think between the 3 of us, we'll try to come up with something because it was certainly successful.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Mickelson?
Oh, a perfect segue into this sign that we're going to have in front of Town Hall. It'd be wonderful to advertise a program like this. We would get so much traffic on that street. So I think by the end of the year, starting in the spring, if we do it again, we'll have a sign to utilize.
Definitely. Anybody else? All right, well, thank you very much for your work. Yes, Amy.
Hi, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say anything. I just want to thank Cody. I mean, he did all of, this work was all on him. We were basically the referral source for him. So thank you, Cody. This was a big help to a lot of seniors in town, and we certainly look forward to working with you in the future.
Well,
Thank you, Amy.
we tried not to do that because we don't want Cody's head to get big. So,
I couldn't not let it be said.
no, like I said previously during the previous discussion, we know the people that we have working for us do a great job, and Cody's been a great addition to the staff. And you know, we don't want to put pressure on him, but we expect more, a lot more coming from Cody. So I know he'll deliver. So, and I know he'll be more than happy to work with other departments in getting stuff done. So. But it also takes a team to do everything, and it's just not just one person. So you guys, Dolores, Amy, you're a part of this. Sean is also a part of this, you know, so, and it's just it's a good thing that we got going here, and we just need to keep it going. So, but it's good to thank them, and it's good to acknowledge that, and it's good to let everybody out there know what's going on also. Like I said before, the town doesn't do enough for its own PR. So, you know, items like this, yeah, it's a good thing. So thank you.
Thanks, ladies.
All right, next item on the agenda, we have the historic preservation restriction request. Mr. Buddy, come on in. And there's the video, and he's unmuted. All right, what do we got?
If I could just to give some background on this issue at the last meeting, this item was on the agenda. Mr. O'Day came to speak his opinion about not having the preservation restriction on the property. So we wanted to have Mr. Baker here and Attorney Savastano to give the reasons why we should have the preservation restriction on the property.
Okay, we'll hear from Buddy first because Anthony's warming
Yeah,
up.
for some reason my camera's not. My camera's not signing on. I don't know what's
It
going
might
on.
necessarily not be a good, might not be a bad thing, Anthony.
The best you have done is.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, Sean. I ruined your night.
It's okay. My night's not ruined. This is a good thing. I enjoy doing these on Monday nights. Trust me. This is a gas. Okay, Buddy, go ahead.
Sure. Just originally the Town Pound project was approved in the June 2017 town meeting for a grant of $10,200. And this is to do restoration to the Town Pound, which is a historic structure on Russell Mills Village. And that was clearing the property of trees and kind of the overgrown part of the Town Pound that was kind of starting to threaten the structure of the stone wall and fix the gate and stuff like that. In a CPC proposals, when we look at them, part of the criteria is ongoing maintenance. So we need to have some understanding that with the public investment that there's some long-term ability to protect the investment. So one of those aspects is how will property be maintained in the future, because CPA funds can't be used for operating expenses. And the proposal here was for the Parks and Recreation to take transfer of the property, which is a town parcel, to Parks and Recreation, and Parks and Rec would maintain the property, kind of keep it mowed and stuff like that, which made complete sense. In October, an issue was brought forward to the CPC, on the CPC committee. One of our members observed there was some overgrowth, as they observed from the street, questioned about what was the maintenance of the property. It was reported that there was a meadow that had been planted in there and being maintained by neighbors. There's some discussion about sort of what that meant in terms of the understanding about the long-term maintenance of the property. The CPC asked the Historic Commission just to confirm whether or not there was any problem with having a meadow growth area in this town pound, whether it took away from the historic significance of the structure or adversely impacted it. And then we also asked Parks and Recreation if there was this arrangement, could they establish an MOU? So it was very clear who was responsible for the long-term maintenance. If the meadow was not maintained in the future, was the Parks and Recs still committed and obligated to taking care of the property? And we asked them to just confirm that. The Historic Commission confirmed that the meadow was, in their opinion, did not take away from the historic significance or adversely affect the property. And we have not heard back yet from Parks and Recreation on the MOU about the long-term maintenance. In January, from those discussions, it was brought forward from the committee that the long-term historic preservation of the property would be best in the hands of a preservation restriction on the structure. And that had not been requested or included as part of the original proposal. The transfer to Parks and Recreation was considered a way of protecting the site because once it turned into Chapter 97 property, it takes a 2/3 vote of the legislature to dispose of that property. But as was pointed out, the transfer to Parks and Recreation under kind of Article 97 land doesn't necessarily protect any alteration of the site. It just means the site will be maintained as parkland. Could put swing sets on it. You could, the Parks and Rec, has the right to do things on property to maintain it as parkland and stuff. So the committee thought it best to have a historic preservation restriction, which is something that's applied to the deed of the property and then lives in perpetuity. And that's when I reached out to the board on behalf of the committee, expressing the committee's wish to, if the board would consider placing a historic preservation restriction on the property. That is the select board's discretion, being since it is a town-owned land, and there is no other already agreement in place to do that. So that is kind of maybe I'll stop there in terms of there, and then obviously there are different opinions, and I know. Attorney Savastano is ultimate, certainly much more well versed in these things. But that's the history and the issue as I understand it.
Anthony,
Could I ask Peter? Brian Cruz is waiting to get in on this conversation. He's in the waiting room. Peter, could you sign him in, please?
He's not in this meeting.
In the waiting room. Peter, could you sign him in? Okay, I'm texting him.
he's got an old link, maybe?
I just sent him the current link.
Okay.
He's sitting somewhere else and he thinks he's in this meeting. He's probably pretty lonely.
So can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Mr. Mickelson.
Is there any negative issues with us assuming this historic preservation restriction request?
Is that a question for me or?
Either one of the two. Yeah. Well, both.
Yeah.
Peter, he says he absolutely is. It says waiting for host. I told him just to sign out and sign back in.
From the Community Preservation Committee point of view, there we did not see where there would be an adverse, kind of impact of having a preservation restriction. The enforcement of a restriction is generally, this would be the restriction would be to convey the restriction to another entity to hold the restriction. And so that the town would need to decide who that entity was. And that's in order to keep it as an arm's length responsibility.
You have someone that's willing to hold the restriction?
I know it would be the town's decision about that, but I know the Dartmouth Historic DHPT Preservation Trust has held restrictions. So I do know that is something that they do. There are other entities, I think, Sean, they're kind of Whale. There's some other entities around that do hold restrictions.
Having this preservation restriction on land, would it be similar to, I'm trying to put this in as easy terms as possible. Wouldn't it be sort of similar to double knotting your shoe? You tie your shoe once, you got some protection, it won't come off, and now you want to double knot it. So it definitely won't come off. Is this similar to that?
That's an interesting thought. Yeah, so I think the property is in a historic district. And so there are, this historic district has the right to review alterations and approve kind of alterations to properties that are considered historic. And again, you know, Attorney Savastano will correct me, or Attorney Cruz. One of the things when I kind of just trying to do a little bit of research myself, what's the difference between a historic district and a preservation restriction? So one thing is a preservation restriction lives in perpetuity if the deed restriction is so written. So it runs with the land forever. You know, historic district can be enlarged, it can be reduced in size according to the state law, Mass General Laws 40C. But the other aspect, and this is where I'm not so familiar, but one of the things in 40C, which is the Mass General Laws on historic districts, is there are certain buildings or structures or features that are not in the review purview of a historic district commission. And it outlines 8 different instances. One of those is walls and fences. So by the read of this, technically, walls and fences are not under the purview of a historic district commission. So that kind of protection about the alteration of the wall seems like perhaps it might not be as strong as historic preservation restriction on the parcel itself, which would be very explicit about preventing any alterations to the wall. The parkland designation doesn't provide in perpetuity any protection to alteration of the structure. It just means the land will be parkland. You could remove the wall and again put swing sets on the property, and that would probably be fine. So it seems like the preservation restriction in this instance may be the most appropriate and the strongest protection of the historic structure as we know it now.
Yeah, you could also, it could be taken out of parkland with the vote of the legislature as well.
Well, it seems to me the best course of action is to do the restriction. So, Mr. Tattlebaum?
Could someone, we had Mr. O'Day here last meeting, and could someone, maybe from a legal point of view, characterize what his objection would be, or people who he agrees with him?
I would tell you that a couple of years ago, Mr. O'Day and his partner tried to make a claim of adverse possession over the town pound. He has a private personal interest in this, aside from his position on the Historic Commission. I've already weighed in on that with him on more than one occasion. I do not think this board should take into consideration his personal interest in that, because he tried to claim that that was his property at one point through adverse possession. He had a lawyer to write a letter. We had to do legal research, spent a lot of attorney's fees trying to rebut that. Ultimately, he never went to court and made the claim.
Okay, all right. Mr.
Thank you.
Grayson? Mr. Grayson?
Thank you. I'm still a little puzzled by the personal aspect out of Mr. O'Day's previous comments. I'm a little puzzled because in my mind, he made a pretty good case for something that would be the double knot thing that Sean was talking about, that it was not needed, and why spend money on something that is already taken care of? So I'm not sure where that is.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's a good question. And so that I think, and I've Mr. O'Day has communicated with me as chair of the CPC. So I have seen his, he's written to both Mr. McGinnis and myself. So I do, I'm familiar with his position on this. The one question to me, and again, I don't know these legal terms, but and I think Mr. O'Day would say the historic district designation provides sufficient protection to that property because alterations can't be made to historic properties in the district without the historic district commission review. But the one kind of question mark I have is Section 40C of the Mass General Laws specifically exempts walls and fences from that, from a historic commission review. It could be 20 years from now, there's a really different Parks and Recreation Administration and a very different select board who might then exercise that exemption when it wanted to do something to the structure, or 30 years out and say, well, we are going to change it and you actually don't have the right to review it. Anyway, that's kind of what the law looks like. And again, I'll stop there because I'm not an attorney, but that's the one kind of like loophole that might be there in the Historic Commission. I understand Mr. O'Day's argument, but there might be a loophole when it comes to this particular kind of structure.
You also may have an historic district members who don't care and say, fine, do whatever you want to the property. So if you're relying that as a sole protection, I think that is certainly not belt and suspenders.
Okay. All right, so you have Mr. Chattelbaum?
One quick, Buddy, follow up what you just said. He was here not representing the Historic Commission, and he characterized it at his own opinion, but what would the Historic Commission say regarding his comment about the Historic Commission having some kind of say in this whole thing?
I don't know how familiar they might be with some of these particular exemptions, but I mean, I would think the Historic Commission, being just kind of what their intent and purpose is, would want and would think that they would have an opinion in this. It does look like there might be a loophole, and it's probably an exemption because of historic. If I had a historic house in the village, but I had a wall or something like that, maybe I could do things with the wall, but not my house. But a wall is all that this makes this thing significant. It's kind of odd, it's unusual in that respect. It's not like a historic property with fences and things like that around it.
Again, I really caution you to take Mr. O'Day's comments, given his clear intent to try to take the property by adverse possession in the first place. His own personal interest in not having his property next to him protected.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at his previous email, looking at the discussion, looking at other things. I'm of the mind that a preservation restriction will be a good thing. It's good to have, in that way, zero could happen to that town pound, and keep it as is. because there aren't that many town pounds around. And this is one of the few in this area. So, but I'm only one of 5. What's the board's pleasure?
I'll make a
motion to,
historic preservation restriction on the property.
okay,
The Parks and Recs will maintain the property.
all right, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. Herron. On the motion, any questions? Mr. Tattelbaum.
Is there any validity or necessity to any help to get the Historic Commission's evaluation of our decision?
I can read you. I don't want to speak for Judy Lund. I'm just looking at an email that she wrote. And
Okay.
she was asking about the deed restriction and she quoted some language and she says, and this is a quote, "That suggests to me that a PR is not required, but would further guarantee the pound property could not be changed by the whim of the legislature."
Yeah, I think we all.
What she's saying is the legislature by a 2/3 vote can say, take something out of parkland property.
Right.
So you read into that what you want. I don't want to say what she meant by that. I've not had a conversation with her about it. That just suggests to me.
I mean, 2/3 of vote, you can take something out. Putting a historic preservation restriction on the property takes it out completely
Exactly.
so that it can't not be done. So,
Okay.
any
Thank
further
you.
questions on the motion?
Thank you.
Mr. Tattelbaum,
Yes.
Mr. Herron,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson.
Yes.
Chair votes in favor. Proceed with the restriction, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thanks, buddy.
Nice going as usual, buddy.
Thank you.
And thank you to our legals. All right.
Mr. McGinnis, do you need us for anything else?
Well, maybe for the opioid class action.
All right, I'll stay for that. Brian, you're all set. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, Brian. Nice
Good to
talking
see you all. See you later.
Nice talking to you. Good seeing you, though.
Oh, good job, Brian.
Yeah, I really, really like putting on the tie.
That's a
Have
clip.
a good night, guys.
All right, we have line item request for transfers for appropriation. Mr. Barnes.
Yes, we have 2 light items. As you may recall, at the end of the year, you're able to do light items from one account to another in May and June up until July 15th. We prefer light items to reserve funds because it is more inclusive in terms of having both the select board and the finance committee sign off. In the case of the 2 light item transfers I'm going to discuss, both were considered by the finance committee and were voted 6-0 at the meeting of June 1st to support. So the first one involves unemployment. It's been an up and down roller coaster ride in terms of unemployment cost for fiscal year 2021. There's a lot of uncertainty because we continue to get credits back from the state. As you know, there was a fair amount of fraud involved, and they're trying to adjust for that. Plus, there's some hope that we will be getting some COVID-related monies toward unemployment, but nevertheless, we have to make sure we have the sufficient appropriated monies. Doing trend analysis is very, very difficult given the ups and downs this year. We have yet to receive the bills for May and June. So what we have done is we are requesting $55,000, which addressed a slight deficit in the account and gives us hopefully enough to cover May and June.
Okay. All right, so on the first line item, whoever makes the motion, please read it from the paper directly so that you're saying that it's being transferred to and from. Motion?
So 1 second. So I'll make a motion, request for transfer of appropriations, the amount of $55,000 transferred to unemployment expenses, and to be transferred from debt service interest.
Motion made by Mr.
Balance remaining in appropriations for which transfer would be $80,863.77.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by
I'll second it.
Second.
Mr. Gracie. All right, on the motion, any questions? All right, Mr. Tattelbaum,
Yes.
Mr. Herron,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
and Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
and chair votes in favor. Okay, the next one?
The next one involves the personnel department. You may recall that back last June, after town meeting had occurred for the June 2020 town meeting, you had approved a contract for the personnel director, or administrator, I should say, is her formal term. That amount was not in the budget for town meeting, as it occurred after town meeting, consistent with what we had done before with the development director. In last year, you may recall, we did it through a line item transfer. The idea is to keep the number of articles down at town meeting as much as possible in the fall, given all the uncertainty related to COVID. So we're asking for the amount to cover what was not in the budget for the approved contract as approved by the select board.
Which is $10,400.
$10,476.
Yes, that's correct.
Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to request for transfer of appropriations in the amount of $10,476.00 to be transferred to professional salaries to be transferred from debt service interest.
Okay.
Which
Motion
the
made by-
remaining balance of the appropriation would be $80,863.77.
Okay. Motion made by Mr. Mickelson. Is there a second?
I will second.
Mr. Gracie, thank you. On the motion, any questions? Okay, roll call. Mr. Tattelbaum,
Yes.
Mr. Herron,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
and the chair votes in favor. Okay, thank you, Greg.
Sure, and as far as I can tell, barring an uncertainty, those will all be the only line item transfers for this year.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Could I
Next
ask?
item on the agenda, we have the DPW professional engineering consulting contract. Okay, Mr. McGinnis?
Yes, as we have an interim director of DPW, Tim Barber, part of the position requirement for the DPW director is to have a professional engineer. Currently, there is no professional engineer on staff at DPW. Mr. Hickox, our previous DPW director, has agreed to fill in on a part-time basis to provide professional engineering services. His contract is attached in the packet, and it's essentially it's a temporary contract, no set number of hours that can be terminated at any time, and it's for his existing hourly rate at his retirement.
All right. Board's pleasure.
Motion to approve the compensation shall be at the rate of $82.23 per hour of professional engineering services with an allowance for mileage reimbursement in the course of carrying out the duties of the interim professional engineer with his personal vehicle. The interim professional engineer shall receive no other compensation or fringe benefits in return for his employment under this contract.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Gracie, thank you. Questions, Mr. Tattelbaum?
It's a frame of reference for me. Is this to perform duties that no one else in the department can do and you need to have one there, or is there some kind of oversight involved? Could we define it a little bit more?
A professional engineer is licensed by the state of Massachusetts to review and stamp engineering work. So currently on staff, there is nobody with that licensure. Mr. Hickox is a professional engineer, so that is when he was in place. So he was tasked with that, and now he's going to come back and provide that service. So nobody on staff currently can perform the same service.
So, but this is simply to if you will, ratify a project, and because he's licensed to do it, he can review it and stamp an approval, but not endorse the project, not plan the project, and not be involved in the oversight, simply to say this project qualifies. Is that what we're saying?
Correct. But we also get to leverage his experience from doing this for a number of years. So.
Okay, well, can we ask, or is there a plan from DPW as to what, I mean, he's a valuable resource, and we certainly need that kind of experience there. Can we ask for some kind of plan as to how they plan to use him, and or is this something we have to just sit by and let them do their work on their own?
No, their plan to use him is to review plans for construction, stamp those plans to submit for proposals from contractors. So he provides the last oversight, stamps and certifies the plans that they meet engineering code and standards. We need to do that. So we need to provide stamped plans somewhat regularly.
Mr. Gracie?
Yeah, I just want to add to my memory is that, as we all know, we've been looking for a replacement for him. And one of the problems so far is that we have not found anybody that has this stamp. So until that happens, you need someone like this to do the professional work that license allows.
Correct.
I'm not against at all. I understand that part of it, but you also have in this particular case someone who's experienced, knows the department well, and do we have a desire to use him beyond, or is he even interested beyond just stamping these projects approved and looking at the overall bird's eye view of what we're doing over there? Or is that just not going to happen?
No, he's only tasked with reviewing plans and stamping them and fulfilling the role of a professional engineer. So he's a consultant. So we would, that's all he is tasked with.
Thank you.
Anything further on the motion? Okay, Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Herron?
Yes.
Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Chair votes in favor, 5-0. Okay, it's good. Okay, next item on the agenda is the Economic Rapid Recovery Plan of a public meeting.
So this coming Wednesday at 6 p.m., we'll be holding a public meeting via Zoom. Several months back, we received a grant in the form of consultant from the Department of Housing and Community Development. This grant and the consultant basically are going to take a look at our general business district, go over, get some statistics, and provide a summary of the impact that COVID has had on our businesses, with the plan at the end of this to come up with some different projects that we as a community can try to implement to support our business community within the general business district. And hopefully there'll be some grant funding to pursue those projects. Additionally, there's some other things that they plan to give us, like an empty storefront list. So that'll be a great tool for us to leverage as a community. We can have that on our website, keep that up to date. And as people want to come into town and look to do business in Dartmouth, we can provide them that list, and that gives them at least a place to start. It's something that we've never had in town, and a lot of other communities have that. So that's just one of the several things I'm excited about. So this meeting will give kind of an overview of the data they've collected so far and some of the initial plans, and also solicit any feedback from businesses and residents.
Excellent. Great. All right. Any questions on this from the board? Excellent. Thank you, Cody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Next is the opioid class action lawsuit.
Mr. Chairman, do we need to sign that?
No.
No, it's just a notification.
Oh, all right. Okay. Yep.
All right. We got the opioid class action lawsuit representative contract. Anthony, or I should say Attorney Savastano.
You're muted, Anthony.
So we, as you know, we've met with representatives from Motley Rice with regard to representing the town of Dartmouth in some litigation. There's a number of municipalities that have litigation pending against opioid manufacturers, distributors, etc. And it's a good opportunity for the town to participate. We've talked at length about this in executive session, to participate in this litigation. because it could be a potential windfall for the town. Certainly, we may get some funds, whether we engage in litigation or not, depending on what litigation involving the Attorney General ends up with. But my guess is that will end up with more money for the state and not the local municipalities. I've spoken to a couple law firms. I've been to a seminar on this. I've spoken to a number of municipal attorneys in different towns and seeing which direction they have been. There's some federal litigation pending. There's some state litigation pending. I think in the end of the day, Motley Rice and the Norms Law Group gave us the best opportunity for a recovery. They gave us a contract for legal services. I had some minor concerns about it. I made the changes. They accepted all of my changes. So I'm happy with this agreement that's in front of you tonight.
Okay. Gentlemen, do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we hire Motley Rice LLC, the firm, in consideration for representing the town in the litigation.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. Gracie. On the motion, any questions? Roll call. Mr. Tattelbaum.
Yes.
Mr. Harron.
Yes.
Mr. Gracie.
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson.
Yes.
And the chair votes in favor.
Mr. Chair, do you want to vote to stamp the contract or to sign it individually?
Motion.
I make a motion that we have Mr. McGinnis stamp it for us.
Second.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Gracie, seconded by Mr. Harron, to have Mr. McInnes use our stamp on the contract. Any questions? Roll call. Mr. Tattelbaum.
Yes.
Mr. Harron.
Yes.
Mr. Gracie.
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson.
I'll come by tomorrow and sign it.
Okay. And I say yes. Okay. All right. Terrific. Okay. Thank you, Anthony.
All right. Have a good night, gentlemen.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. We have committee appointments to make. Let me ask the board. You guys want to do this on a committee by committee base, or do you want me to just read, and if you have any questions, hold on that particular committee? All right, we'll do it that way. We'll do, if you have any questions on each particular committee that I read, just say hold, and we'll mark a hold, and if not, we can just do a blanket approval.
Good.
Or disapproval. Mr. Gracie.
Yeah, I just want to point out, I think the only one, I think might be in contention would be somebody that doesn't meet the attendance requirement. Outside of that, that's pretty straightforward.
Okay, I think for the most part, we got most of the attendance requirements.
I think there's only one person, Sean, and I think he's resigned.
Yeah, from conservation.
Yeah, and
Yes.
other than that, everybody's at least 70 to 80% at the lowest.
Yeah, I don't think there's any, I don't believe he's on the list for conservation anyway.
He resigned on 3/9/21, the Conservation Commission.
Yeah, I don't think he's on. Matter of fact, conservation isn't even on this. At least I don't think so.
Yes.
Oh, yes. All right, it's just Kelly Wilbur on that.
Right.
All right. And if there's any vacancies on these board that are required, let's have them posted so we can get approval. Agricultural Commission, Derek Christensen, Jeffrey Kinder, Fred Dabney.
Motion to appoint.
We'll do it all together at once. If you have anything, just stay a hold, okay?
All right, okay.
Animal Control Officer, Sandy Gosselin. Assistant Animal Control Officers, no one listed. Board of Appeals, Robert Gardner Jr., Alvin Newman, alternate. Board of Registrar of Voters, Mary Ellen DeFries. Capital Improvement Planning Committee, Luke Lehman. Community Preservation Committee, James Conlon. Conservation Commission, Kelly Wilbur. Constable, Thomas Goggin III. Cornell Advisory, Gloria Bancroft, Tom Yenna, Michael Roy, William Chandler. Council on Aging, Kathleen Denizard. Cultural Council, John Terry. DCTV, Tracy Oliveira, Paul Lavasser, Russ Robinson, Cynthia Rose, Joseph Barbero. Greater New Bedford Regional Refuse Management District Committee, John Beauregard. Greater New Bedford Regional Vocational Technical High School School Committee, Cynthia Marlin. Building Committee, Library Building Committee, Stan Buslack, Suzanne McDonald, Bruce Brooks, Heidi Silver Brooks, Mary Ellen DeFrias, Michael Prue, and I'll put myself in there as I'm the rep, Sean McDonald. Pathways Committee, Sarah Maderas, Greg Barnes. Police Station Use Review Committee, David Canberra, Andrew Garcia. Police Station Construction Committee, is this necessary, Mr. McGinnis?
Not completely necessary, no. So you
Okay.
do not need to.
All right. We would like to thank Edward Pimentel, Stan Mickelson, Ken Vincent, David Tattlebaum, and Richard Ferrera for their services on this committee. Russell's Mills Historic District. Michael Wachowski, Michael Walker. Sister City Delegation Committee, Nicole Jackman, Elmira Barrios, Sheila Cope. Soil Conservation Board,
Hold.
okay. South Coast Bikeway Alliance, Sandra Maderas. Special Police Officers, Alan Shaw, Jeffrey Lewis, Mark Zelinski. Turf Committee, I believe that was Tattlebaum and Mickelson. You guys would like to do this, continue?
Yes.
Okay, and we'll put those two in there. Veterans Advisory Board, Norm Gunderson, James Tooley, Chris Pereira, and Peter Fusco. All right, Soil Conservation Select Board Rep, Mr. Herron.
I was on that before. I'll be on that again.
Okay, we'll slot Mr. Herron in on that. Okay, gentlemen, what's your,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Gracie?
Yeah, I was a little asleep on the switch here because you're reading faster than I can move pages. But I noticed on the Conservation Commission, I'm sorry, on the CPC, there's two folks that have below our average, our attendance. On the let's see, on the building committee, the library building committee, there was someone that is below the average, below the requirement, excuse me. And I believe on the youth commission there was one.
Okay, on the CPC, the gentleman that was below the average resigned,
But there's two people in it.
right? And the other one would be,
He's not up for reappointment.
yeah. He's not up for reappointment just yet. And then what was the other one, Mr. Library?
On the library building committee.
Yeah, he's not up for reappointment.
Okay.
And hopefully in the next, well, actually he is. But to be honest with you, hopefully that committee has less than 30 days to exist.
Okay. And there's one on the youth commission.
And the youth.
The Ute.
The Ute Commission. Let's see, let me find that.
He's at 60%. He or she. Trying to read names, but everything's sideways.
Yeah. Cultural Council, BPW, reappointment. Historic District, Concom, CPC, Library, Youth. That would be 60%. That'll be Renee DeRochers.
I don't think they're up for appointment.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't remember seeing her name. Sorry, hold on.
No, she's not up for reappointment.
Not for reappointment, okay.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Tattlebaum.
rather than wait the year or whatever it's going to take for the people who underperformed, would it be appropriate that we send a letter from this board to ask people to, these individuals who didn't qualify?
It certainly would be.
And we appreciate you staying, we'd appreciate you not only staying on, but more importantly, attend the meetings. If you can, please let us know as soon as possible.
Yep. Mr. McGinnis, can you take care of that for us?
We'll
please?
do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion to appoint the individuals named?
Motion to appoint.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. Gracie. I know you said it first. Okay. We're short on the trigger, John. On the motion,
That's all
any
right.
questions? All right, Mr. Tattelbaum,
Yes.
Mr. Herron,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
and the chair votes in favor. All right, that concludes new business, old business. Okay, update on COVID, anything?
Yeah, well, no updates. Things are open 100% as of last weekend. And things seem to be running smoothly, so fingers crossed. So it's a good sign.
I do know there's still people wearing masks, and I appreciate their fervor in that. It's also good to see. It's also good to see some people's faces that we haven't seen, that I haven't seen in over a year. So it's definitely different, that's for sure. But there is still some caution out there, and I agree with that. I keep my mask with me, so just in case. So, but it's definitely different. So,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would certainly, wearing a mask is a personal choice, but however, in effect, really, if you have not been vaccinated, it's really not supposed to be a personal choice. So that I know a lot of people that I see day in and day out are wearing it because they feel they should, and other people are making those choices every day. But clearly, the government's asking people who have not been vaccinated to wear masks. We had asked the people that townspeople do the same and honor that request.
Well, hopefully they can, because I know we're a lot of people just didn't like it because it infringed upon their freedom. But it's just, one of those things. It's a political football that'll always be bounced around and will be all talked about for many, many years to come. So, which is good. That's good. Any updates on Bliss Corner?
No new updates on Bliss Corner. We're still waiting to hear back from DEP on scheduling a date to meet. They have not gotten back to us, so we're waiting. Lake Nokichoke, no new updates on that.
Okay. All right. Next, we have the minutes of May 10th, 2021. Board's pleasure.
I would
Motion to approve.
Looks fine.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Herron, seconded by Mr. Gracie. Okay. On the motion, any questions? Mr. Tattelbaum?
Yes.
Mr. Herron?
Yes.
Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes in favor. Okay, let's see. Do we
Mr.
have any information that needs to be discussed? Hold on, we'll go with Mr. Herron.
We have a letter from Maria Connor. I was wondering if I could read that into the record.
Board objection? Go ahead.
Dear members of the Select Board, at the Dartmouth Friends of the Elderly meeting held on May 25th, the members voted to put a hold on the moving of the old library to the new location at the Dartmouth Council on Aging. The reason for this vote was due to the fact that as it has recently come to our attention that the town has tentative plans to build a community center, which would also include housing the Council on Aging. Since we have been unaware of these plans, we have already spent a great deal of money prior to the moving of the library, including cutting down trees and engineering costs. We also have been in contact with movers and possibly have one ready to go. We do not want to spend even more money on something that may or may not be in the works. We need some assurance that if we go ahead with this project, that it will be saved for future generations to enjoy. It makes no sense to move this building if the town, at this point, does not know what they will do, what they will or will not do in the future with the present Council on Aging building. The Dartmouth Friends of the Elderly has over the years put millions of dollars into the present Council on Aging, including building garages to house the vans, the wellness center, additions to the COA building, plus many smaller projects. We have already heard from some people who are excited that we planned on saving the old library building and even sent a donation to help with that cost. We have to disappoint them at this point, but feel it will be detrimental to go ahead with a project that may be doomed in a few years. We do plan on a press release to inform the people of Dartmouth what has happened to cause a delay or possibility of cancellation of this project. We do not know at this point if this community center is a movement by a few people or if it has the approval of the select board. Maybe you could enlighten us to this fact. Thank you for your consideration with regards to this important project. Maria Connor.
Thank you. I get my initial reaction to that is, number one, this is just a feasibility study to find out if a facility is needed, period. So that still is out there. There's no concrete plans. I haven't seen any plans. I haven't seen any locations. I just know that this is a feasibility study. My initial take on this was that it was going to be a Council on Aging annex. Maybe that will change. I don't know. But it's just all, the whole thing with the community center is at the appetite of the voters and what they're willing to, spend, basically. Mr. Gracie had his hand up, then we'll go to Mr. Mickelson.
Yeah, thank you. I was pretty surprised when I read this letter when she sent it out, because I haven't heard too much about what the community center would encompass, or even if it will happen. But to me, it seems kind of ridiculous. I had never heard that the Council on Aging, certainly, because I haven't heard anything about the Council on Aging being involved. I would think it'd be absolutely ridiculous to include a move for the Council on Aging. An annex would be okay, but it would be ridiculous to move a building that's in perfect good condition, has already had millions of dollars spent on it. It seems to be a convenient location for people. I personally would like to see that not be part of any discussion, so people are not sitting on eggshells.
Mickelson?
Yes, I'm sorry to hear that. That I think it could be, in most due respect, it's a misunderstanding. I believe that just the mention of something new or a new location, possibly, it's pie in the sky right now. There's nothing written in stone. There's no monies. Well, we have monies for the study, but we still would have to put money up to make these changes. And more importantly, $12 million to build a building or more by the time we're done. Maria and I spent a lot of time on this project, and I must say that I know her heart is always in it for the town, and not just her, but her whole organizations have supported this town with not just with talk, but with money, and they always come up with the money to do things. So I think by putting it on hold, I'm sorry to hear that, but I can understand their position at this point, because I just think it's a misunderstanding, and it's a good project. I think a lot of people would love to see it. It's a lot of money, and it will cost the town nothing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maria, and your group.
Mr. Tattelbaum?
Well, I know I was personally, I would use the word shocked to even think that this was part of that study. But, a study is simply a study, and it's sorting out alternatives and possibilities that you could want to consider. I think that, in my view, I think this board should take some action as quickly as possible on this portion of that study. I think the board should say, no way, no how. Maybe there's an annex, but would never, in my view, we would never ever consider in the long term the closing or the change of the Council on Aging. Maybe it's an annex down the road, but I think we need to move as quickly as possible. There's too many good things happening. There's no need for this kind of uncertainty. The study came along, fine. Let's deal with the study and make a move so that we're not. This could go on forever, months or years before we make a final decision. And I say we nix it in the beginning, because it makes no sense to me to even consider to move that to Council of Aging. You want to look at an annex? No problem.
Mr. Chairman, can I
Where
provide?
are we on the feasibility study?
Provide some clarity. Yeah, thank you. So I think it was 2 years ago, town meeting voted to appropriate the funding to do the feasibility study for the community center. So people were aware of it. And so we went through a procurement process. We hired an architectural firm that specializes in community centers of multitudes of varieties. Over the course of COVID, we could not have in-person meetings. So the architect did a survey that was very well responded to. We did not get the response from the over 55 community that is at the same ratio as the under 55. So Amy and her staff at the COA made phone calls to people that patronized the COA to get their input on the survey. So we had a lot of participation in that regard. And then you've mentioned the feasibility study is just that. It's a feasibility study. It's looking at programming for recreation. They determined that they needed a need for indoor space for basketball courts and whatnot, and programming space. The Council on Aging is very successful in town. I think we're hearing that, and the Friends of the Elderly are contributors to that. But the Council on Aging, as it is now, is a space that's utilized very well, but it's not maximized. It is maximized, and do they need more space? So this is something that we want the architect to come in. He has interviews with the Council on Aging director to analyze what they're doing for programming, what they have for attendance, what they look for in the future, what is anticipated for attendance and programming, the same with recreation. So they're doing a study to not only assess what is the capacity now at these locations, but what the future looks like. So as we mentioned at town meeting on July 14th, we'll be having an in-person workshop meeting with the architects. We want to garner as much input from the public as possible. So we encourage as many people in the community that are interested in this project to come forward and provide their input, which could be, we don't want to see the project at all, to we really want to see this project come to fruition. So we want to hear from them. So that's very important. And then once the study is done, we'll present it to the select board, and it's up to you all to decide, in what capacity you want to move forward. It may determine that there is no need for a community council on aging beyond what's already existing. It may say it needs a larger facility. We don't know. So this is the first step. Nothing has been set in stone. And we just wait and see the outcome of this and move forward one step at a time.
Personally, I can tell you I'm extremely hesitant to move the Council on Aging. However, I do want to see what the results of the study is, because this is something. This is huge, gentlemen. This is huge in this committee, on this town. For years and years and years, I've always said, and you guys know it, I'm a broken record about it, that this town does absolutely nothing for its recreation, for its citizens, especially our younger citizens. We do something for our elders, or our peers now, but we do nothing for the younger set, and we rely upon private organizations to do it. And it's town, and I would like to see the results of this. I am hesitant about doing anything and any moving of the Council on Aging. We have a great facility there. There are some things that are lacking in the facility that need to be upgraded, maybe expanded upon. But I like to see where this is going to go before we make this decision. I don't want to kill the process. And before we see it, and I know this is something that I know the Friends of the Elderly are looking for. They're looking for a definitive answer so that they can move on with their plans. But I just wait and see. I want to see what the feasibility study looks like. Mr. Grayson?
Yeah, I would take a different approach. I agree with Mr. Tattelbaum. If none of us think the Council on Aging should be moved, I think we should speak up as soon as possible. And again, I'm not precluding an annex or a walking track for elderly people with some time on the track if they want, or whatever else might be needed. but that we should provide some comfort in the fact that none of us, if that's true, none of us would like to see the Council on Aging be moved, because that's going to stall things until something else happens. And if there was an annex that could be concurrent, what would be done in the new building and what would be done in the old building. But I believe that the current building is very important to this town and the people that use it, and they should get some comfort in knowing that we support that not being shut and moved.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yeah, just one last thing, this supposed study, the project is really supposed to supplement the COA, not to replace it. So even at that point, I don't think there's anybody in this board that wants to move the present COA anywhere.
I think we should make that clear.
Yes.
So the COA does not have the concerns that are apparently being expressed for nothing.
Mr. Talabon?
Listening to all this, I think I feel there's strong consensus. However, the study is out there. We need to finish it. What I think we need to do is put a very tight timeline so that, Sean, when the results come, there's a July meeting, and then we very shortly after we come up with a plan that's very short-term minded with a long-term plan. And I think that we can then make a move, because people deserve to know what's going on as soon as we can make a determination about the big decisions, about is there any possibility that we would want to consider moving the whole place? But a tight timeline that people know what it is and what to expect and when. It wouldn't take very long to make some major decisions about the study.
Mr. McGinnis, when is the workshop?
July 14th here in Town Hall. I think the time is 6 p.m., but we'll I think that's the time. I don't have it clearly in front of me, but
it's a Wednesday.
Yes. So it's in-person workshop. We hope to get as many people to attend as possible. And, like I said earlier, this is a feasibility study. It's an assessment. I mean, the board does not need to make any decisions. The town doesn't have to make any decisions. They're really just presenting information from their study. They're professionals. So it's, nothing is being done. Nothing is set in stone. So there's a variety of options after the study has been completed, and they'll come in and present a number of things. So
there's no doubt that the emphasis of this study from the beginning was about youth recreation facilities.
Period.
And I think that's what we have to really key in on and make some decisions as quickly as possible about COA.
And they're not trying to shove anybody out of a building.
No, it's to enhance the service. I think if you look around, the model now is community centers that provide some overlap in use. Yep. So recreation and the Council on Aging have their uses are opposite. So a facility could be maximized. And also, there's been a lot of talk, particularly with the Council on Aging and their age-friendly community initiative, to have all ages together and overlapping, and a facility like this provides that. So, from children to families to the elderly are all visiting the same center. It also allows us a centralized location. As you remember, we didn't have a real area for a vaccination clinic. We were able to work with the school because they weren't in session. But, looking in the future, this could become more of a norm. And, what does the town have in place to accommodate large-scale meeting places that a community center might be able to? Those are just items that have been discussed. Like I said, they look at the existing conditions, they look at what the future may need to provide, and they try to base their feasibility study on a number of factors like that.
Is there any information on the feasibility study available now?
There's information, but they're very close to completing it. After the workshop, there'll be more information, so they're going to garner more input. We have the information from the online survey that we can provide. We can pull that together, but it really should be combined all together with the in-person workshop to give a thorough overview of everything that they've been able, all the information you've been able to garner.
I think we need to be clear that this meeting coming up is not about the COA. It's about the entire population from 5 to 100, and it's not focusing just on the COA and the seniors population. So,
that's what I mean. It's a community center, so
right.
It's about the entire community.
Yep.
So, okay, all right. Because this item was not on the agenda, I'm not going to take any motions at this time for anything. I want to put this on the agenda for the meeting after the 14th of July, so that we can get the information to us.
July 26th.
Yeah, I don't think, good. There'll be plenty of time for us to get that information ahead of time.
That's
So we're gonna put that on the agenda for that time.
Excellent.
Okay?
Yeah.
Good
Board
move,
agree?
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
A good move, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all right. Anything else? Mr. Tattelbaum?
This is just a request and doesn't really, I'm not asking for any discussion, but as early as our next meeting, I think we need to address the issue that came up at town meeting regarding stipend. I'll go on record to say that I would never take a dime for it, but people it needs a venting and a process to see where it stands. And I think that we should, town meetings seem to be quite explicit about getting some kind of research done, but doing it in the proper way. And I request that we have a discussion about this or some kind of vetting in our next meeting or the very next possible meeting.
I think we'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting, and I think we can use the Mass Municipal Association. I'm sure they have a database of all that. We can request
Great.
that from all
Thank you.
communities.
Thank you.
Not just, Mr. Mickelson?
Yes, I've put this forward a few times. Mr. Barnes and I, the last time I put it forward, has a proposal of what I put together, and it was fair. And I think we need to look at what I proposed maybe 3 years ago. I think the towns.
I don't think we're ready I think we're ready for the first discussion about the concept, and I think we should.
There has to be monies involved. At least there has to be line item monies.
Can you remind us what this is before we start getting into the discussion, please?
Stipend.
Okay, stipend. Thank you. Okay.
Yes.
So, all right, we're still on the same. All right, I thought it was an entirely different subject.
No.
Okay.
So, well, it could be. These things morph into
okay.
many things.
All right.
But I think the town is got the stomach for something like this now.
We'll see.
That's what the discussion's for.
We shall see.
That's what this discussion's for, and yeah.
Thank you.
You guys know how I feel about it, so.
I think most of us would not take the money, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we don't believe in the project.
Yeah. Well, plus the fact that, I'll be honest with you, and somebody had said it, that maybe if there was a stipend, we get more people to run. If you run for this position because of the money, you really don't want this position.
You're in the wrong place.
You're in the wrong business.
Exactly.
Well, I think we need, those are all things we need to discuss at length.
Yeah, so.
All right.
Thank you for scheduling. Appreciate it.
We'll schedule that.
Good night.
Mr. Nicholson.
Yeah, I just would like to mention the Memorial Day Parade and congratulations to the town of Dartmouth. I know when we first got out there at 8:30, it wasn't, the weather was not that great, and we really didn't have high expectations. But I got to tell you, as soon as we started to march over that bridge, and we saw an enormous crowds on both sides, all the way to the old police station. The children everybody wanted to get out. It was a great opportunity, whether the rain or no rain, they would have all been out there. And I can't thank the people that did come out. And it was just great to see the little kids enjoying a parade for a change. Thank you very much.
It was well received, and I want to thank the board members who did march for their participation. Mr. McGinnis was also there. So thank you. I know, I'll be honest with you, and I'm not making any excuses, but my knee would not last. You would have, the old 3-member holding the flag and with the fife and drum and hopping along, that would have been me. So I just, it would not have done. So I want to, for the members who attended, thank you very much for representing. For the participants, thank you very much. And for the Veteran Service Officer, Matthew Burley, and the Advisory Council, you guys did a great job. And I'm sure everybody, it was a welcome relief. It was a return to normalcy. So, and I think that was the biggest thing. It was going back to normal. So thank you all. I appreciate that. Anybody else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. Gracie. On the motion, any questions? There better not be. Mr. Tattlebaum,
No questions? Yes.
Mr. Herron,
What's the score?
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
and the chair votes favor to adjourn. Thank you all. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Go Bruins.
Great job, Sean. Great job. Good meeting.